I have never once seen CIG this aggressive. 07 Star Citizens, hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I hope you've all had a fantastic week. If you've been following the news from Star Citizen recently, it's been really big. Last week, we had our very first server meshing test, and it didn't have jump points enabled. It was just, here's people on Pyro, here's people on Stanton, and let's make the shard go. Let's see how the servers can handle. That test apparently went really well. So much so that this past week, we then got jump points. And we had, for the very first time in all of Star Citizen's development, people jumping from one system to another seamlessly with no loading screens. Anyone who has been following the project for really any amount of time knows just how big of a deal this is and why it's going to be the bulk of today's video, even though there are a ton of other things that I want to talk about in regards to all of the stuff. Now, firstly, these tests were done in Evocati, so unfortunately we don't have any images or video of the test, but since they changed how the NDA works for Evocati, we do have a bunch of information from people who tested in Evocati. Someone that I know in Evocati did let me know that the test was a huge success, visuals aside. It worked, and jumping between systems was smooth and seamless. Additionally, 200 player slots were enabled, and the servers were packed to the brim with ETF players. So this is a couple of things. Firstly, it's great to hear that people were able to jump between the two systems. This is what we've been waiting for so long. We've been, the 4.0 is on the horizon, 2 years away. Pyro's coming has finally been shortened to maybe it's like 6 months to a year away. The big part of information there that got me really excited, though something else got me really excited from this morning, which I'll tell you in a moment, was the 200 player limit. I was a little scared that what might happen when they started doing these tests, and maybe even when it got pushed to live, was that the server as a whole, or the shard as a whole, was still going to have the same sort of player limits, and then you would just stretch people out between the two servers. It was a big thing that I was scared of, but that I trusted CIG to do something about, and they did. It is truly mind-boggling, the fact that we can now talk about people actually traveling through jump points. We're also at a point in patch development where it's not gonna happen, but it's theoretically possible this could be in 3.23. At the very least, the server meshing part. Maybe we get a 3.23 without Pyro, but with server meshing. They've talked about that before. I'm also essentially just spewing stuff here. It's just, we haven't had a proper 3.23 Evocati patch yet with features, but we're getting the server meshing patches. It's insane. It's absolutely amazing. So hopefully we get these Evocati tests into, regular PTU soon, and into players' hands that aren't Evocati, because everyone's obviously going to want to test this. Everyone's going to want to jump between it. It's double the amount of play space, and it's just such an important piece of tech for the game. Moving on from there, but touching on a little bit about what I said about the 200 player caps that they're doing in Evocati. Today, and tomorrow, time zones are weird. It might be sometime around this video goes up. They are doing 400 player server cap locks. 400 players. So even with what I was just saying about, I was a little scared of them stretching people out too much over the course of the two servers, the course of the two systems, turns out they're trying to make it even denser. Now, what I have been hearing about the 400 player server tests is people essentially had no troubles getting in, but tons and tons of desync, which you would kind of expect anyway in live right now on a full server if it had been up for long enough. There's going to be a ton of things that they're going to have to do to fix all of that. I also imagine that the people that were in those 400 person servers were from all around the world, not region locked, right? Like if I go into a full server in Australia and everyone's on Australian, so everyone's got Australian ping, I don't expect as many desync or weird bugs impacting me as I would if I go into a US server and it's just got a mix of people. So the test sounded like it fundamentally went okay, but I doubt that we'll be seeing those 400 player servers until we get server meshing in live. That's what it feels like, but you never know. That could be another thing that also gets pushed out to 3.23. Maybe 400 is a bit too much. Maybe they start to test the waters of live with 200 people. When we first got the additional 50 people, because if you remember a couple of years ago, we were at 50 people servers max. When we went to 100, there was a lot of tests of 110, 120, 150 even, before they settled on 100 as a base for a while. I fully expect this sort of stuff could happen. It also, all of this in general, speaks to a problem that we just had with the Idris event of it being way too hard for people to find these because there are too many servers and you just got to server hop to find these Idrises and whatnot. Condensing all of those people into these servers means that that sort of stuff they can still do essentially the way they did, but it doesn't feel as bad. Everyone has more of a chance to find those locations. So that's two major things that got tested in Evo Cardi this week, but that's also not to mention the monthly report and the roadmap roundup that also came out. The roadmap roundup has introduced the two large features from CitizenCon in terms of visuals that most people are really excited for 323. That is the new volumetric cloud update, which is going to be visual quality, volumetric shadows, and ground fog that we're going to see at CitizenCon. And then the image upscaling that we also got to see at CitizenCon. So a massive performance upgrade for a lot of people. With those being added to the 323 roadmap, we are now at a stage where more than half of the things that they talked about at CitizenCon are now on the roadmap for the next patch. At the end of last year, there was sort of an offhand comment. It was all but official, in my opinion, that we would be getting everything we saw at CitizenCon within a year. And I think there was a couple of like nitpicky things there. Like I very much doubt they were talking about base building, but all of those other features they seem to be talking about. For everything that was squadron related, I could have kind of understand how we would see that within a year, but there were so many other things that were coming. And now it seems a bit more realistic. Keeping in mind, of course, we haven't really seen a 323 patch with features at all in the PTU, and there's still always the chance for things to be removed. But I do want to say, it feels really good to have another roadmap roundup where nothing has been taken away from 323. At this stage, the only thing from any roadmap roundup that has been removed from 323 is specifically spawning vehicles in the freight elevators. So it's not even the full feature. Like a part of a feature has been removed from the roadmap. I would have expected it to be much more things being removed at this stage. In addition to the roadmap roundup, because, you know, we haven't had enough things going on this week, we had the monthly report, and there's a ton of things in there that are absolutely fantastic and I recommend you check out. One of the things is there's like an allude to like new AI behaviors that are getting worked on. A key initiative for 323, I believe, is the way that they talked about it. And it's fully of my opinion that that's going to be either creatures, you know, like cows and the space cows and space whales, whatever it might be. It could be AI behaviors for those, or we could possibly see AI behaviors for vehicles almost be ready. They've talked about it before, so maybe not so much, but that's something. The big one that a lot of people are excited for, of course, though, is the Polaris. The Polaris's exterior has finished level of detail 0, so now they essentially just need to do the interior, which I do expect to take quite a few months, but this was a ship that I was not expecting to actually see this year. I knew they were going to be working on it. It's a pretty big deal that they're getting to that stage. That, in addition to the fact that the Zeus seems to be pretty close to done now as well, like they have been pumping that out, means that we should also still have a really good year for ships. That's not mentioning all of the unannounced ships that get talked in there, all of the missions that get talked in the monthly report. It really is a dense one. Make sure you check it out. It has been just an insanely informative week. And it's weeks like this that really start to make me love Star Citizen again. So much progress happening in such a short amount of time, once again, makes sense with the fact that we're seeing these squadron teams come over to Star Citizen. But it feels so different. I've been following Star Citizen development since like mid-2020, and very shortly after that, they, announced that the initiative was going to be primarily squadron with some Star Citizen features. So I've never really gotten to experience anything like this, where it's just Star Citizen thing, Star Citizen thing, Star Citizen thing, over and over and over again, week after week, which is what 2024 is really leading up to. So before I let you go, because that is just me ranting about the insane amount of information we have, let me know in the comments below. 1, what are you most looking forward to? 2, do you think that the pace of development in Star Citizen has increased, or does it just feel like it has? And 3, which ship are you most looking forward to? I imagine the Zeus probably might, the way that they're talking about it, it might actually be ready for Invictus. And we know that 323, they're looking to release it in April. I think it's more likely that it'll release in May or June. However, it could be here before Invictus, and I'm sure they're trying to get that patch out before Invictus. So yeah, that's it for me. And that was all without me even talking about like the SCL about master modes. or anything they're going to be talking about this coming week with the new ISEs. It's just been a really, really dense couple of months, and I'm really excited to hopefully hop into these PTUs. We have jump points now.